Welcome to the world of Roland electronic percussion. I'm Steve Fisher, your host, and I'm going to show you the Boss DR550 Mark II drum machine. What I'm going to take you through today is not only the DR550's most powerful and popular features, but I'm also going to give you some helpful hints and some tips on how you can start making music and having fun with your unit right away. First things first, this white piece of paper that probably fell out while you were relentlessly ripping open the packaging is your warranty card, and you'd like to probably fill that out, and I'll tell you why. First reason, it will validate you and register you as the owner of your DR550 drum machine, but not only that, it automatically registers you, and we will start sending you a free subscription to the Roland Users Group magazine. It also allows us to be able to keep sending you updated information on the latest Roland products and programs that are happening in your area. The DR550 Mark II is a very affordable drum machine, full programmability and professional sounds. As a matter of fact, it has features such as 91 16-bit CD quality sounds. It also has 12-note polyphony, which means you can play 12 sounds simultaneously all at the same time to have them sound. You also have 128 patterns inside, and that consists of 64 user programmable patterns that you can program yourself, and there's also 64 patterns that come from the factory pre-programmed, so you don't have to do any programming in case you want to start making songs or playing along with it right away. Another great feature is that the DR550 Mark II can be battery operated, and that makes it wonderful as a practice tool. It makes a terrific practice tool in that sense because you can take it almost anywhere that you want to go. The other features obviously provide it to being a wonderful tool for live playing, for sequencing, and even just recording onto analog tape. Let's start off with looking at the layout of the DR550 Mark II. If you look at the drum machine, if you'll notice on the right-hand side, we have our 12 pads that we'll use to access our sounds with. We also have, on the left-hand side here, starting at the top, we have a start button. We also have a stop button. Underneath that are numerical keys we can use for entering in data. And also below it are some function buttons, and particularly our right and left cursor buttons are going to be important to us because they also add or take away different values. Now you'll also notice that throughout the drum machine, in gray lettering, you will see different words, things like song, and pattern, play and edit, and even above the pads, they're also marked in gray, some of the different functions. And you can access those functions by using the Shift key. That'll be very important to hold down Shift, and either one of the pads or buttons will get you to those functions. You also see that we have an alpha dial for our volume knob, as well as our display. Looking at the back panel, I have my on-off switch. I have the AC power, if I choose to do that, versus the battery power that I'm using right now. There's also a headphone input, which you'd want to use a stereo mini plug. There's also right and left 1/4-inch jack outputs. Next to that is also a tape save and load that you can use if you want to save your songs and your setups. You can actually save that to regular analog tape. Also next to that is a MIDI in port. And that's very important if you're going to use the DR550 in a sequencing situation or you're going to play it from a pad controller. You can access the sounds in the DR550 through an external means besides just the 12 pads that are on the front of the unit. So that's our layout. If you're anything like I am, I open up my new products and I start digging in, I start playing with them, and when I get stuck, then I open the manual. So I'm sure you've probably done a few things with the DR550, and I think what we should do first of all is reinitialize the unit so it's just like it was when it came out of the box when you first received it. And that's a very easy procedure. First of all, turn the power off, hold down the right and left cursor keys, and then turn the power on while holding those buttons down. Now it'll say INT in the display, which means initialize. Simply push the start button and it will say enter edit, and it will go back to exactly the way the unit was when it came right out of the box. I'm sure you've also noticed that the DR550 Mark II has a demo song that comes with the unit, and if you haven't found that already, simply after initializing the unit, you press the start button and you can hear part of it. Some of you, I'm sure, have heard this ad nausea, so I'm going to stop it right there and continue on. Starting off with the pads, we have all the different sounds, and most of them are labeled correctly. You can see kick, snare, the hi-hat closed and open, tom-toms, side stick. For the most part, they're labeled that way unless you decide to change sounds or simply access more sounds. And that's possible. You don't just have the 12 sounds. We actually have 4 different pad banks of sounds. You can actually read up in your upper right-hand part of the display, it'll say pad bank, and it should say A. Now down here, this button down here says bank. If I push that, you can see the pad bank number change. There's pad bank A, B, C, and D. So I have 4 pad banks with sounds. First pad bank has pad bank B has a different set of sounds. Pad bank C has a lot of different percussion sounds. And you can access those sounds as well. Also, pad bank D has a lot of other different sounds. So you've got a wide variety of sounds, and again, you can change those sounds and on those pads, and that's what we're going to do next. So we went through our pad banks. I'm going to go into just regular old-fashioned pad bank A, and what I'm going to do is change the sounds on the pads. For example, let's say I wanted to try a new snare drum. What I can do for that, if I look up here in the gray area, pad number 7 says pad edit, and again it's in gray, so hold down the shift key and push pad edit. The first parameter that comes up is a sine. And even whatever sound you play, you can see snare 1, low tom, middle tom, crash, clap. So there's my snare drum simply using the +1, -1, or the cursor keys. You can use it to change the different sounds. I can change any sound I want to, and it's that easy. Again, just shift and then number 7, pad edit. The next step is sound editing. There's some sound editing you can do on the DR550 Mark II. For example, if you do find a sound and it's not quite to your liking, you can do some sound editing. And let's go through some of those different parameters. For example, again, it's a pad edit function. So what you want to do is hold down shift and push number 7, pad edit. And the sign is in the window. While holding down the shift key, if I use either the cursor buttons, I can go through the different types of sound editing. There's color, decay, type, there's accent, and there's panning. Let's go through some of those. Color is just like it says. It somewhat colors the sound. You can hear it. Kind of putting a little bit different filter, if you will. Let's go to the next parameter, decay. For example, do you remember in the pad bank D, we had that hip hop rap kick drum, and usually you want to make those longer. So now if you wanted it shorter, you'd simply make it shorter. What I'm doing here, a little hint, instead of having to keep pushing the minus button, if you hold down the minus button and then push the other plus button or the other arrow key, you can watch it, the value will go and you don't have to keep doing this. Same thing with going up, you push the right arrow key or the plus and while holding down the bottom minus key. So that's decay. Another one is type, and you can either have sounds in monophonic or poly, and you want to keep them in poly. And what that means is that, for example, cymbal crash, if we have, that means the cymbal will keep ringing, it won't keep re-triggering the sound, and that's very helpful especially for cymbal sounds. There's accent. We can have an accent. The ACC means accent on the lower right. And you can hear that volume change, and that can work for all the sounds. There's also panning. So I can take a sound, for example, like a cowbell or my ride sound, and I can pan it anywhere in the stereo field. So again, some minor sound editing there that you can do. Let's go into playing some patterns. If I go back into, there's pattern play, you can see it in gray up on pad key 5, and again, since it's gray, it's a shift function, so hold down shift. Pad 5 is pattern play. Now in pattern banks, we have A bank and B bank. The B bank is the preset patterns I talked to you about earlier, the 64 preset patterns, and the A bank is the user programmable patterns. And you can get to those simply by holding down shift, and right above the bank it says PTN A/B in gray, which means pattern bank A or B. So B has many different preset pads, and you can actually go through any of them and listen to them. A wide variety of different types of beats and fills. And from right there, you can start putting patterns together into songs, and you don't even have to start creating patterns first. It's already there for you. If you do want to make your own patterns, it's very simple. Let's go back to pattern bank A. So push shift and then the bank button. Now it says A. I'll just go actually to pattern 88. And it's empty. To record, this is how you record a pattern. It's very simple. Since there's not a record button on the unit, what you can actually do, you can actually take the unit, and where we went to pattern play, if you look to the right, there's pattern edit. And that essentially puts us in record mode. Push shift, and then button number 6, which is pattern edit. And you can see in the display now it says step. When we go to pattern edit, anytime you're in pattern edit, you're in record mode. Now right now it's step because we're in step time. If I push the start button, I'm actually in real-time record mode. So you can see that. For example, I'll just do something in real time, which is very simple to do, and I'm sure it's the first thing you'd probably want to try. Hit the start button, and you can hear the metronome going, and you can also see the steps. You can also see the different subdivisions of the beat go by the counter. And you can also see the light will tell you where the downbeat is. It lasts a little bit longer. It's a little bit brighter. So there's our downbeat. And I can start to play, for example, entering in a hi-hat part. So you can see from there. Now if I wanted to go to another pattern and do it in step time, I'll go to pattern 87. And again, it's blank. But for example, just to show you a little bit about step time, I can enter in the hi-hat. And if you look in the upper part of the display, there's a whole set of boxes that go horizontally along. And that's telling me where I'm at in my steps. The dark arrows that you see are actually the downbeats. Or for example, the beats, I'm in 4/4 time, the beats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then all the little boxes in between are the subdivisions. And I can enter in my hi-hat, and I can enter in my kick drum, and I can then move the actual where my beat is using the cursor keys. I'll move it to the right. And you can actually hear my hi-hat that I've played. Put a snare drum there. Put another kick drum underneath the 3rd arrow. And let's put a snare drum again on the 4th arrow. So you have a kick drum underneath the 1st and 3rd arrow, snare drum above the 2nd and 4th arrow. And now if we push start, we can hear it. That way, if you're having a little bit of problem coordinating, getting the beats in, you can even slow down the tempo if you want to first. We'll help you with that. But otherwise, step recording is also an easy way to get started with things. So that's actually creating a pattern. And the next step for us is to take these patterns that maybe we've created and make them into a song. So these patterns are basic building blocks for us as we go and make a song. For example, what we can do is I'm going to record just a couple of quick patterns, and I'll give you a good idea of how this works. I'm going to go to an empty pattern, let's say pattern 81, and I'm actually going to go to a different pad bank. There's my sounds, and I'm ready to record. Here we go. Let's go back. Let me start at 82. There we go. I'm going to start with pattern 82, and it's always very wise to take a pen and paper and start to mark down which patterns you're recording. So for example, I'm going to take a piece of paper and I'm going to mark down pattern 82. So I've got my piece of paper and I'm going to write down pattern 82, and it's going to be a basic pattern. So I can record it. I'll stop. Pattern 83. I'm going to write down, and I'm going to make it, I wrote down pattern 83 on my piece of paper, and it's going to be a drum fill. Pattern 84, I'm going to create a quick pattern here. It's going to have a little bit of variation to it. Now I know it sounds like the same, but what we'll do is add a little bit of percussion to this. So I can go to my other pad bank that had the percussion. So there's my third pattern. That's pattern 84 that has percussion. And I want to make just one ending pattern. Let's make an ending pattern, and I'm going to label that 85. So let's go to pattern 85 and simply put in just a crash with a kick drum. Now since I have those together, I have my basic building blocks. Now I'm ready to build my song. And how I do that is very simple. Up here you'll see Song Play and Song Edit. I want to go to Song Edit. So I hold down Shift, push down Edit. There's Song Edit. Now what I can do is I can select which song I'm going to be editing by holding down the Shift key, Shift and Edit. And what I can do is select that song. I'm going to make it Song 2. Easy enough. Now what I can do is start building my song. And okay, now that we have our patterns, and I've actually, on a piece of paper, I wrote down that we have A82 as our basic, fill, then 84 is the percussion, 85 is the ending pattern. And now what we want to do is take those patterns and, like building blocks, build them into a song. For example, I wrote down the order in which I'm going to enter this so I can remember it. We're going to start off with pattern 82. There's a B up there helping me remind that there's a basic pattern. I'm going to do that one again. And then I'm going to go to pattern 83, our fill pattern. That's why the F is up there. Then I'm going to enter 84, which is the pattern that had percussion with it. And then going from that to another fill pattern, 83, back into the basic pattern. And then I'm going to do another fill pattern, and then 85, our ending pattern. And again, remember, they're all A, 82, 83, 84, 85. Okay, so I can look at my sheet now. I'm ready to enter it into the drum machine. And it is, again, I can't tell you how helpful it is to write down the patterns that you've done and the order in which you should do them. So let's start off here. Again, we want to go to Song Edit, and it's in gray, so we use the Shift key. Hold down Shift, push Song Edit. Again, we're going to select, make sure we got Song 2. That's what we're going to go for. Okay. Now if I let off on the Shift key, and it does say in the display measure 1, but we're not dealing with measures. We're dealing with the building blocks. Right now it means what's your first building block and what does your pattern want to be for the first building block. Well, I want it to be A82. It happens to say it, but I'll show you the procedure in which we need to enter it. If you hold down Shift, you can get to either A or B. In this case, we want A. You push 82, which is in the display, and then you push Enter down the right-hand side. Now, as you will see, we're off to the second building block. And we want it to be A82, which is in the display. That's good. We can push enter again. Now 3, you can see there's a different pattern in here which we're not going to have, so we need to change that. We're going to change it to A83, which is our fill pattern. Let's hold on Shift, at least go to pattern bank A, and then we simply push 83 for 83, and then enter. The next one we said was going to be 84. Change that to the A bank, and then type in 84 and enter. Again, we want to go to the A bank for the next one, and we want to do 83, which is our fill, enter. Step 6, we want to go back to our basic pattern. Let's make sure we go to pattern bank A and then 82. Then we said we're going to do a fill and then an end. So we need to do a fill. And okay, that was 82, and then there's enter. Hold on Shift, let's get to pattern bank A, 83. Push enter, and then we have our ending, which is 85. I'm going to go to pattern bank A and then 85. So now that we're done, we want to hear our song. Let's go to song play, which we'll do. So you hold down Shift, song play, and we push start. We should hear our song. So it should be the basic pattern twice. So we have here should be our basic pattern twice, going to a fill, going to the percussion, back to a fill, to basic, to a fill, to an ending. And let's listen. Back to basic. So there we have it, and we had our ending, and that is our song. Obviously, you can go much longer than that if you want to and incorporate all the different patterns that you make. But that is how you actually create a song. So I hope that gives you a little bit better outlook and a quick overview of what the DR550 Mark II is all about, and I hope this gets you started. And if you refer to your manual for the further features, and also there's a lot of other things that you can do with it that you'll find in there and using that as a reference manual.